"I was hoping to see Brad and Marcie here today," I said, as Isabel and I sat in a corner of the Metzger home, sipping coffee and wondering how many pounds we'd put on at Maureen's dinner table. Isabel's only child, Bradley, was a handsome 30-year-old fellow who had spent most of his post-high school years working on the many lobster boats that call the Cabot Cove port home. Lobstering is hard work, and only the hardy manage to make a go of it. I knew that Brad had taken a year off from working the boats to attend a community college with a curriculum designed to prepare students for jobs in the restaurant business, but he had gone back to hauling lobster traps from the deep after earning his certificate. His wife, Marcie, worked as a secretary in the Cabot Cove school superintendent's office and also as a part-time waitress after school. They went off to spend the long weekend in Portland with their young friends, Isabel said. I was invited, but didn't want to be the only person at dinner on the wrong side of 50. When Maureen called, I decided to enjoy this Thanksgiving right here in Cabot Cove with old friends. Well, maybe not old, but friends my age. "I'm delighted that you decided to stay, Isabel," I said. "We haven't had a chance to catch up since last summer's Lobster Fest when Brad supervised the Down East Shore Dinner Lobster Bake. You know, I always wondered why he never did anything more with the culinary classes he took in college. He's a very good cook. Of course, he had an excellent teacher at home." A sly smile crossed Isabel's lips. "Promise to keep a secret?" she asked in almost a whisper. "I'll do my best," I said, "but I promise nothing." She held her index finger and thumb an inch from each other and continued to speak in the same conspiratorial tone. "Brad and Marcie are this close to getting the funding to open their own restaurant." "That is exciting news," I said. "I didn't know they had those plans." "It's always been Brad's dream, but it seemed beyond their ability to come up with enough money to turn it into reality. They're such hard workers and live frugally, saving every penny they can. Marcie has always worked a second job, and Brad is constantly taking on extra shifts with the lobster boats. Still, what they managed to put away wasn't enough to open a place. So I decided to help. I've refinanced my house, and Stephen Wagner at the Savings and Loan has granted them a sizable loan. They now have enough to go forward." "That's wonderful," I said, keeping another thought unsaid. It was admirable that Isabel would risk her home, the mortgage for which, I was certain, must have been paid off years ago, to help her son and daughter-in-law. I wasn't sure it was the most prudent of decisions. I knew from my previous research that owning and operating a restaurant was not only an all-consuming, challenging job, but the failure rate was high. I had to assume they knew the risks. Certainly it wasn't my place to throw a wet towel on the idea. Isabel glowed with pride at what Brad was about to undertake. Her being able to help him and his wife go forward with their plan was obviously satisfying to her. I was happy for her. "Have they decided where their restaurant will be located?" I asked. "The Old Wharf Seafood Shop on the dock," Isabel replied. "It's an ideal location, with all the summer tourists we attract. Of course, it will take a lot of construction to turn it into the sort of fine dining spot Brad and Marcie envision. But a lot of restaurant equipment, like ranges and refrigerators, tables and chairs, even napkins and silverware, can be gotten on credit from suppliers." "That should be helpful," I said. "Brad is going to feature some of my favorite recipes," Isabel said proudly, "and name them after me on the menu." Her pleasure was palpable and contagious, and I squeezed her hand and laughed along with her. "I can't wait to be one of their first customers," I said. We were joined by